Good, happy Saturday evening, June 12, 2021. I'm Riley King, and welcome to this Saturday evening edition of the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. We have a lot of news to get to this Saturday evening, so let's begin. First up, court documents reveal new details in case against MIT student suspected in killing of Yale student. Let's take a listen to that video right now in that report.
Meet Go Henry, the kids' debit card and financial education app that helps you teach your kids smart money habits. Your kids learn independence. You stay in control. Set up automatic allowances. Reward them for chores. Raise your kids to be money smart. Get started today at GoHenry.com.
The man accused of killing a Yale grad student faced a judge today here in Connecticut. Authorities arrested Kinswan Pon in Alabama last week. Now he's back here facing charges for the murder of 26-year-old Kevin Jiang. NBC Connecticut's Mike Massaro has more on today's court appearance.
After eluding capture for 3 months, Kinswan Pon was described by prosecutors as a danger to society and a serious flight risk. New Haven Superior Court Judge Brian Fisher agreed and sent a very strong message, setting bond at $20 million. Pon is accused of murdering Yale student and U.S. Army veteran Kevin Jiang on the evening of February 6th. Police say they found Jiang face down in a New Haven street with multiple gunshot wounds to the head. Pon was identified as a person of interest, and pursuit stretched from Connecticut to Alabama.
The steps taken to elude law enforcement and his national and international ties prove he's an extreme danger to the community and a major flight risk.
Prosecutors say when Pon was arrested Friday, he was in possession of $19,000 in cash, 7 cell phones, 7 SIM cards, and his father's passport. While the state asked for bond to be set at $50 million, the judge set it at $20 million.
This court is extremely troubled by the efforts this defendant has made to avoid apprehension and potentially flee this country.
Defense attorney Bill Gerace argued in court that a bond this high indirectly denies his client the right to bail.
It's a record. It's a record, unofficial record, but it's a record for bond in the state of Connecticut. I'm sure of it.
In court, prosecutors said Pon's family owns 2 homes in Massachusetts and recently bid $320,000 on a North Carolina home, suggesting they have money to post a lower bond.
I guess that may be the prosecutor's perspective. I'm not sure that's true. But they're not poor people, that's for sure.
Gerace says they will likely appeal the bail. Pon is expected back in court June 1st. In New Haven, Mike Massaro, NBC Connecticut News.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Portland Sea Dogs have one of the few female play-by-play announcers in baseball. Let's take a listen to that video right now.
There are only a handful of them in the entire country, and one of them works in Maine. We're talking about female play-by-play announcers in baseball. And this spring, one young woman made her debut as the voice of the Portland Sea Dogs, the latest stop in a career that she started at just 15 years old. NBC's Dustin Bukowski explains.
The first pitch misses low and outside for ball 1.
It's what Emma Tiedemann's not thinking about that might impress you.
We head to the bottom of the second. Portland trailing.
When she's in the Sea Dogs press box.
Field and outfield playing straight away as Miller kicks. And the 0-1.
She doesn't see her dream job with the Texas Rangers somewhere on the field.
Swing and a missed strike 3.
There's no time for long texts from her fiancé.
Amanda sets up on the inside part of the plate. as this one is scooped up into the shallow left center field.
No moment to reflect how she's following in her grandfather's footsteps. He was once the voice of the Cowboys, the Rangers, worked with Harry Carey at the White Sox.
This one is another foul ball back behind the plate. It's caught by a fan.
Instead,
I first followed the ball.
her eyes are always on that baseball.
Are people sometimes surprised when they hear your voice?
I'm sure they are. I think it's taken some people some time to get used to. I've had some people on Twitter say, I wasn't expecting to hear a female announcer today, but I stuck with it and you're not that bad.
Emma's journey to Portland, becoming one of just 5 female professional minor league team voices,
We have a group message and a Snapchat group.
began when she was 15.
My grandfather was calling a Division III University of Texas at Dallas women's basketball game, had an extra headset for a broadcast, and handed it to me and said, you know basketball, you know how to speak.
That ad hoc tryout took her from the University of Missouri to Kentucky to Portland with an internship in Alaska along the way.
Incredible pressure. It was tough. I won't sugarcoat it. I didn't want to mess it up and ruin any other female's chances down the road because I made one mistake that stuck in the minds of listeners. It takes a lot of reps.
Emma says Maine and the Sea Dogs gave her one of the warmest welcomes, kept her spirits up through 2020 when the season was canceled. It would have otherwise been her first here. With the 2021 season to go,
I was ecstatic.
it's her voice on the speakers.
Talked about.
If all goes well, she could join the other famous faces here who've made it to the majors. There are a couple women MLB play-by-play voices, but Emma says none are full-time.
I just want to be one. I don't have to be the first.
A ceiling yet to be broken, but the cracks in it could very well be forming with every word Emma speaks.
Field Portland trailing 2-1 on the Sea Dogs radio network.
In Portland, Maine, I'm Dustin Lukowski.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Oh my god, I'm in the mouth of a whale. What it's like being swallowed by a humpback whale. Let's take a listen to that video from NECN.
But we begin with breaking news and what could be the story of the year. A lobster diver nearly eaten alive by, get this, a humpback whale. Sounds like a story from a children's book. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Audrey Assistio. So this happens this morning off the Cape Cod coast, and now that man is telling his tale. So let's go ahead and get right out to NBC 10's Mike Manzoni live in Wellfleet. Mike, obviously this is a very wild story, but how is he doing? Is he okay?
His name is Michael Packard. He lives here in Wellfleet. He got home a couple hours ago. We were there when he arrived home from Cape Cod Hospital, only amazingly with minor injuries. He tells me that he was about 45 feet underwater this morning off the coast of Provincetown, lobster diving, when all of a sudden everything went black around him. He soon realized he was in the mouth of a humpback whale. Michael Packard came home from the hospital Friday afternoon with one incredible story to tell.
And I just felt this truck hit me, and everything just went dark.
He was lobster diving off the coast of Provincetown when the world around him suddenly blacked out.
I just thought, did I just get eaten by a white shark? And then I said, no, I don't feel any teeth. And I said, oh my God, I'm in the mouth of a whale, with his mouth shut.
Seconds later, he realized he was in serious trouble. To make things even worse, he couldn't find the regulator for his oxygen tank, and he had no way to escape.
Am I just gonna, like, run out of air and suffocate? Yeah. Is he gonna swallow me?
That's when he thought about his family.
And I'm like, this is how you're gonna go, Michael. This is how you're gonna die. In the mouth of a whale.
His son Jacob was in school at the time and got a text from his mother.
Yeah, your dad was diving and a whale just, I don't know, attacked him, ate him.
The humpback whale eventually spit him out after about 30 or 40 seconds.
And I just got thrown out of his mouth into the water. There was just white water everywhere. and I just was laying on the surface floating.
That doesn't seem like a long time, but try telling that to someone who almost became a whale's hot lunch.
I have a dislocated knee, and just a lot of soft tissue damage in my legs. I also was scared that I had maybe a diving injury from coming up too fast or an embolism. But everything's good. The doctor says I'm good.
And the doctor says everything's good. Certainly not words he expected to hear this morning. He never expected to survive, much less already be out of the hospital and home recovering with his family tonight. And that's really maybe the most amazing part of all this, the craziest part of this whole story, is that he says that he plans to get back in the water, lobster diving, what he loves doing, as soon as he recovers, and he hopes that'll be sometime soon. For now, we're live in Wellfleet. Mike Manzoni, NBC 10 Boston.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. After drag Story Hour canceled in backlash, New Hampshire town plans bigger event. After community backlash and even threats of protests, a library in Derry, New Hampshire canceled a children's story time that was supposed to be hosted by a local drag queen. But now the town is stepping up in a huge way, finding a bigger and better venue for the event. Michael planned the Drag Story Hour event at the Taylor Library and was excited to host it as Clara, his drag personality. I want to teach them that it's okay to be different. It's okay to be who you are, he said. But after being inundated with hateful messages and threats online, the library canceled the event. I felt so disappointed because I'm like, this needs to happen. We can't lose to this, he said. Life hasn't been easy for the 22-year-old who came out when he was 12. Until recently, he struggled with eating disorders and mental health. It was really sad. I felt like I had no one, he said. But when he found the drag community a year and a half ago, he found himself. It was kind of the thing that saved me, you know, he said. Determined that the show must go on after the Storytime event was called off, he started searching for a show right away. Town Councilor Chair Jim has now stepped in to help. It's sort of bittersweet that we are faced with this kind of problem at this time, he said. As Derry recognizes Pride Month for the first time in the town's history, Morgan has a message for those who opposed of the event. It's not reflective of how our town council is. It's not reflective of our school board or who Derry is. I think hatred And bigotry is not a badge of honor, he said. Michael first expected a crowd of about 30 people at Taylor Library, but now he's planning to perform in front of hundreds of supporters. It's going to be huge, and I'm glad, he said. This is probably the biggest moment of my life, and I did not expect that. He is still working with the town to solidify a venue for next week's show. They hope to have an announcement by this weekend. We reached out to the Taylor Library, but they declined to comment on the story. Governor McKee extends Rhode Island's pandemic state of an emergency. Governor Daniel McKee has signed an executive order that extends Rhode Island's state of emergency for the coronavirus pandemic until next month. Maple production has fallen in Vermont and across the country. Here's why. Maple syrup production across the country was off just under 17% in 2021, while in Vermont, the nation's top maple producer, production was off by just over 21%. According to statistics released Thursday by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the drop in production was due to poor sugaring weather, including a run of 70-degree days during prime sugaring season and low sugar content in tree sap. They combined to cause one of the shortest maple seasons in over a decade for producers in Vermont. Folks were anywhere from 50 to 75% of a normal crop across the border this season, said Allison Hope, the executive director of the Vermont Maple Sugar Makers Association. It's a big difference for people. She said low sugar content is usually vulnerable within a state, but this year producers across the country were reporting it. She didn't have a good explanation. The 2021 Northeast Region Maple Syrup Report from the USDA's National Agriculture Statistics Service included a national production figure of 3.4 million gallons, but it only included production figures for 5 Northeast states: Vermont at 1.5 million, New York at 647,000, Maine at 495,000, and Pennsylvania at 165,000, and New Hampshire at 127,000. Hope said this year's federal statistics don't match those that were released last year. She was seeking an explanation for the difference. Hope said the season was cut short by a run of warm weather in late March that caused the maple trees to bud, which ends the season. It felt like a group of events that were conspiring against the sugaring industry this year, she said. about that. Biden's agenda on day 1 of G7. Let's take a listen to that video from ABC News.
You've got your Gammy's hair and your mama's will, woven into every strand. So believe in your roots, baby, and greatness will follow.
President Biden continues his diplomacy tour in the UK as Queen Elizabeth officially celebrates her 95th birthday this morning with Trooping the Color.
Public celebration coming just one day after the Queen met with world leaders at the G7 royal reception, and one day before she holds a more formal meeting with President Biden at Windsor Castle.
It's day 2 of the G7 summit, and China is a big topic of conversation. ABC's Rachel Scott is there with the details. Rachel, good morning.
Janae, good morning. Jam-packed schedule here at the G7. Climate change, China, Russia, all on the agenda. But for President Biden, this is all about showing a united front with our allies ahead of that high-stakes meeting with Russian President Putin. This morning, world leaders arriving at a beach resort in Cornwall for day 2 of the G7 summit. A show of solidarity with allies ahead of that high-stakes meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Mr. President, what's your message to Putin?
So you have to deliver it.
Overnight, Putin saying relations with the United States are at the lowest point in decades, calling Biden radically different from former President Donald Trump.
President Biden, of course, is radically different from Trump because President Biden is a career man, a different kind of person. And it is my great hope that, yes, there's some advantages, some disadvantages.
President Biden getting a boost from his allies before that Geneva summit, sharing elbow bumps and smiles face to face for the first time since the pandemic began. The Queen there too, bringing her wit to the world stage.
Are you supposed to be looking as if you're enjoying it?
Yes.
And inviting leaders to a reception at the country's famous biome. Biden, now the 13th president, to meet with the 95-year-old monarch. And the president taking it all in.
Everybody in the water.
Pushing to turn the page from Trump's America First policies, declaring the U.S. is back. That message appeared to be well received by allies.
Präsident hier dabei ist, Joe Biden.
German Chancellor Angela Merkel, who had a strained relationship with Trump, saying Biden stands for a commitment to partnership that was, quote, missing in recent years. And then there was this moment with French President Emmanuel Macron. The pair spotted arm in arm. Macron later tweeting, "Now that we are together, united, determined to make a difference, it's time to deliver." And today, President Biden is hoping to use some of that goodwill to convince our allies to take a stand against China's growing influence around the globe. And we're also learning more details about the president's meeting with Putin. That will be next week. They will come face to face in 2 separate sessions, and then the president will hold a press conference alone. Eva?
The world will be watching. Stay with ABC News for special coverage of President Biden's first trip overseas. David Muir heads up our special comprehensive coverage from Geneva starting Wednesday, right here on ABC.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. That does it for this evening edition of the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. Thank you for watching, and have a great rest of your Saturday evening. Good night and goodbye.